Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Touching You Talk Show. I am Elder Sheila, and I have two very special guests with me today in the person of Leon Reed Jr. and Nikki Chriesman-Green. How are you doing today, each one of you?
Good, good, good. What better way to
Um,
spend this Saturday?
So I like to ask my guests, how long have we known each other? Now, Leon, how long have we known each other?
uh, about 20 good minutes.
About 20 minutes. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully I made a good impression. Nikki, how long how long have we known each other? Man,
Oh, 20 years. It's been a
children,
while. It's been a long time.
our children went to school together
They did.
and they're both grown. So ooh,
Very.
yeah, yeah. So it's been a minute. So yeah, it's been a blessing. We actually met at the insurance company
We did.
before you even became an attorney. So I just thank and praise God for that connection and how we have continued to stay connected. Tonight, we want to talk about the election cycle and how important every aspect of it is and just get you guys to answer some questions just so we'll be clear on what to expect and just to know what we need to do. All right, so I want to jump right in first of all and ask Leon if he would tell me about you, where you from, tell me about your
Oh,
background.
Lord, it's going to take forever.
Thank you, Elder Sheila. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Leon Reed Jr. I am a practicing attorney here in Texas. I primarily focus on criminal defense, although I am of counsel to a civil firm, and so we do civil cases as well. I'm on numerous boards, some of which are statewide boards and some of which are local. I'm a resident of Como, the west side, the best side of Fort Worth, Funky Town, Texas. Member of Como First Missionary Baptist Church, the pride of the West Side, where Reverend Kenneth Jones Jr. is our pastor. If you'd like to visit, feel free to holler at cfmbc.org.
Okay, you know you're gonna have to give a shout out today, free Nikki. Tell me about you. Where are you from? Give me your background. And you are
And
talking to
you
me.
and you
I
are
am. I'm
welcome,
out there going.
welcome, welcome. No.
Thank you, Minister Reed. My name is Nikki Chriesman-Green, and I am an attorney in the Dallas-Fort Worth community. And it is an honor to be on this talk show with you, Elder Black, and working with my co-laborer in the law, Leon Reed. I've been practicing law now for 15 years. Wow. Ooh, 15 years. And so I practice primarily in employment law. And I also do nonprofit law, little dabble in family law, but don't call me unless I call you on that. And I work on a lot of boards where we do a lot of legislative action and policy in the state of Texas with respect to issues that impact our community as well as issues that impact the law as a whole. And so I'm honored to serve on the African American Lawyer section with Leon Reed, the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association, which is the Black Bar Association in Tarrant County, named after the very one and only dearly beloved Judge L. Clifford Davis, who passed away. I am also a member of Dayspring Family Church in Irving, where our proud pastors are Bishop Kevin Keith Dickerson and Pastor Dickerson. And we are in Irving, and people matter to God, so people matter to us. And so if you are looking to visit and don't want to go to Leon's church, no, I'm just playing. Any church is great. Feel free to visit. I don't care what church you go to, as long as you get some Jesus. I'm excited to talk about this topic. This is something, elections is something that me and Leon, it's a labor of love for both of us because we both believe. And I just want to say this before we get started. I don't know if you know this, and I know Leon is not going to talk about this, but Leon Reed is such a phenomenal, not just attorney, but just a servant at heart. Leon, after the George Floyd incident, Leon, who is he's in the military, and I can't remember what, you were in the Army, right? Leon, did I
No,
get that right? The Marines?
I'm a Marine.
Marine. I knew it was one of them on the ground, but he's a Marine. And with that being said, Leon took it upon himself after the George Floyd. We all got together. We were talking through policies, and of course, we were doing, protests, and we were also talking with our elected officials. We were talking with local law enforcement. But Leon said, "I'm going to take it a step further," and he took those policies. He did a lot of research. I mean, a lot of research. Took numbers, went through all kind of public records, combed through that. This is not something that you can do in a day. And he actually armed himself with all this information and created a campaign where Leon actually walked to Austin
Wow.
to talk with Governor Greg Abbott about the policies. And he not only walked, but he stopped in the communities and he talked with law enforcement officers in those particular cities. He had a route. We could all follow him. And when I tell you he walked, he walked. I probably walked the first mile when he took off in Fort Worth. But after that, I was on the phone with him, like, where you at? Where you at, comrade? But he actually walked. And so when I think about someone who is trying to make an impact and someone that's trying to make change, and I mean this in all sincerity, it is an honor to work with Leon because he means what he says. And so I know that elections is dear to his heart. Me and him have talked about this. It goes beyond us talking and beyond us. We can get people registered to vote. But the problem is how do you get people to the polls to vote? That's really what the issue is. I can register 5,000 people. As if I'm not mistaken, and I'll need to pull these figures up, but we had over 2 million people, 2 million African-American citizens in the state of Texas during the election of 2018, and they were showing these numbers. And that's when Beto O'Rourke was running and some others were running. And there was a deficit in the election where Greg Abbott was reelected of like 959,000 votes. But there were over 1 million, and these numbers may be off a little bit, but the point that I'm trying to make is there were over 1 million people that did not go to the polls that were African Americans. And these are people that were registered to vote, but they did not show up. When we look at the last election that just took place we're in the national election for president, and you look at the number of people that were registered to vote and the people that actually showed up, gigantic deficits, right? And so why are people staying at home? Why are people not getting to the polls? What can we do to help simplify the process? Because a lot of times when you are going to go vote, and Leon, you can jump in at any point. I'm sorry, Elder Black, if you had specific questions. But when we look at why people don't vote, what are the constraints? We've talked to people working with the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute. Shout out to Kanae and Lorraine Vierbill for that wonderful organization. When you look at why people are not voting, a lot of times it's just simplicity. I don't understand. That's not going to impact me. Or what is that going to do for me? What does the county judge do? I don't understand. The ballot is very confusing. The way that things are worded, the way that things are set up on the ballot, we don't know, and we don't understand the impact. Then when we see stuff in the news, like the ICE raids and what's happening in Minnesota, we get upset and we're like, well, how does that impact us? It starts with who you have representing you to make these decisions in Congress, in your local state, right? In your local elections and in your state. And so our conversation today is to kind of take it back to a basic 101. What are the fundamentals of voting, right? What are the offices that are on the ballot? What does it mean when we say midterms? A lot of people hear that because they hear it on CNN or the news. But what does a midterm actually mean? Like, why are we calling it a midterm? What's the difference between this and a national election? So those are just some of the things that we'll be covering today.
So, Leon, how do we get people to the polls?
If we knew the answer to that, we'd all be rich at this point. I'll say this, that citizenship comes with responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is the responsibility to vote, just like we have a responsibility for jury duty when called. And part of that responsibility to vote also entails being knowledgeable about the candidates to the best of your ability, so that you have some basis for making the vote that you made. Now, so there's always some hindrance, whether it's just general voter apathy. People, well, my vote doesn't matter. Your vote does matter. If your vote didn't matter, people wouldn't go through so much trouble trying to suppress it, trying to redistrict things so that they can marginalize or ensure their success when it comes to the ballot box. There's a saying that we used to vote for the candidates and select the candidates, but now the candidates are selecting us. When they go and they draw and redistrict voting lines, they're choosing the people that they want to ensure that they end up back in office. And so I always encourage people to vote regardless of the level of the election. And the more localized the election is, the more it's going to affect you at your household, at your curbside. Um, and so I don't care if they're voting on what toppings to put on the pizza. I'm going to be heard. And so, in a very real way, that's if we really knew how to stop voter apathy, somebody would be really rich right now.
That's good. That's good. So, can you just explain what the difference is between the primary election and the general election? Some people may not know.
Um, the way I kind of the primary is kind of like the pre-election. Somebody, if you have a lot of different people who are running for office, the primary is used to sort it out to just one, because generally speaking, the United States has a two-party system. We do have additional parties, but the two parties are typically the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. You also have the Libertarian Party, which typically runs people, the Green Party, which runs people sometimes, but they're the two consistent parties in the United States are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And at the actual elections, which typically take place in November, you only have the Republican candidate going up against the Democratic candidate, or if there's a Libertarian or something like that, then they're on the ballot as well. But what happens if 10 people want to run for, let's say, judge of bench number one? Well, all 10 of those people aren't going to be on the November ballot. They're going to be in a primary uh, before, which is typically around March, to figure out which one of you 10 is going to represent the party when it comes to November. And so the fancy term of that is it's called a primary. You can call it a tournament if you want to. The it happens in March, and the winner of the tournament goes on to compete against the other guys, winner from their tournament. And the interesting thing in Texas is that during the primary, and they're trying to change it, but during the primary, you can vote on either side. If you're a Democrat and you want to go and vote in the Republican primary in Texas, you can do that, and vice versa. And some people will play that to their advantage. They'll go and vote in the other person's primary for a candidate that they really don't think can beat their candidate, so that that candidate can get elected on the other side and end up facing their strong person at the end. And so but ultimately a primary is just the pre-tournament, the pre-vote before the final vote. And if there are a lot of people running to represent that particular party, they battle it out in the primary. They win the primary. They then go on to face the other candidates from the other parties at the general election, which typically takes place in November.
And I wanted to just, if I could add to that, I wanted to put some dates on it. Because right now there are a couple of things going on. And one of the things that Leon said is very true. We do have the open primary, and a lot of people get confused with that, because when you're voting in the primary, you do have to pick whether you're going to do Democrat or whether you're going to do Republican. There's not like a general ticket where you could go in and do either one, right? You have to kind of pick, and that's how you narrow down who's going to be on your ballot. A lot of times people are uncontested. And what that means is that they don't have a candidate that's running against them. And so some people, like he said, strategize, and they use their votes in contests where they can have an outcome in November, because they know that their primary vote in March is not really going to matter if that person or those people that they are looking to vote for do not have a running mate. Right now, I just want to make sure that we all know the dates. We are about to enter into our primary. There are candidates right now that are out that are needing your votes. We have a lot of parties, a lot of individuals that the candidate, when me and Leon were preparing, one of the things we had talked about doing was going on Ballotpedia and kind of talking about who is running for what. But there's so many offices, so many people running right now. It's a lot. I think for governor, we have on the Republican side, we have about maybe 5 or 6 candidates. I can't remember how many on the Democrat, but there's a lot of candidates that are running. And so with that being said, our primary election day, which is the date that you have to go in and do your elections, is March the 3rd. Okay. March the 3rd. However, early voting, and I always encourage people to do early voting. It's just like waiting to turn in a term paper when you're in college. If you wait until the day of, something may always happen. When you do an early voting, it allows you, if something happens, somebody gets sick, you got to travel, your vote is already locked in. Early voting is February the 17th. So that's coming up. February the 17th through February the 27th. If you are not registered to vote, the voter registration deadline is February 2nd of 2026. Okay. And right now, if you are in, I think is it Senate District 9, Leon? Is that it?
Yeah.
You're in Senate District 9. And how do I know what district I'm in? Go online and look up my voter registration, and it will tell you what your precincts are, who your candidates are. But there was Kelly Hancock was the representative in Senate District 9, and she withdrew for a different office. And as a result, there's a special election that's taken place to replace her. And so we have candidates that are on the ballot, and that election is currently, if I'm not mistaken, taking place right now or will be on February the 17th. And so I want to make sure that if you are in Senate District 9, that you pay attention to that, because that's a special election. So the dates are different.
So if you're not registered, then there's no way to see what district you're connected to if you're not registered.
You can. If you're not registered, what you want to do is the Secretary of State has a website, and you can look up. It's the Secretary of State, but it's also let me back up. Go to the Texas legislature. If you're not registered to vote, it's difficult because when you go on the page, it's difficult to maneuver. What you could do is go to the Texas legislative page. You can also go to your local city page, like Tarrant County, where the city council, the city of Fort Worth page. That's the one I use because that's where I live. It will say, who is my representative? And you can put in your name and your address. And based on your zip code, it will tell you who your representative is. Now, because we do stuff difficult, sometimes when you look it up, it will have 2 numbers. Like mine is confusing because when I looked mine up, it had like District 9 and 12 because it's split, right? So depending on what side of the freeway you live on, you may have a representative just by a block. And so it's easier when you can go on there and you can actually pin yourself and look up your voter. But if you're not registered to vote, please do that before February the 2nd, which is next Monday, and go online and look up what district you are in.
If you're confused about what district, you don't know any of that, just Google who represents me or who is my representative. And you can put in your address because it's all based on your residence. It's all based on your residence. And so when you put in or you Google who represents me, you'll see a link that comes up for the Texas House of Representatives, for the U.S. Congress, for all of these different areas around the country. So if you put in an address in Nebraska, it will tell you who your congressman is, who your senator is, and it may show you from there on who represents you at the state level as well. And so the simple way to do it, whether you're registered or not, is just Google who represents me, and then you'll have to click on each of the individual links to see who represents you at each level.
That's good. That's good. That's good information. So let's talk about the federal offices that are on the ballot. What does a U.S. Senator do, and how does that role impact Texans or anybody?
You want me to take that one, Leon, and you got it?
Oh, you talking right now? Go ahead.
Okay. So the U.S. Senate office, that applies to Texas in general. So it's not gonna say, District 9 or District 10 like it would with the U.S. representative. And the U.S. senator is the House, they're the body in Congress that deals with federal legislation. They do confirmations. They also do treaties. They are currently the senators in Texas is Senator Corwin and Senator Ted Cruz. And so we have each one of those are kind of like on a different ballot. But right now, Senator Corwin is up for reelection. It's Cornyn. Am I saying it wrong?
Yes, Cornyn.
No, please correct me. I'm not, no disrespect. But that seat is for usually 6 years, and they represent the entire state. And they play a very important role because, as you can see with all the Supreme Court confirmations, as you see with the checks and balances for the president, when you look at who is representing us on the federal level with these decisions regarding immigration, with the decisions regarding the purse, right, in funding, the Senate is one of the most important offices that you can have, because they represent us as a body before the federal government. And so we don't have a voice outside of our senators in the federal policies that keep the president in check.
All right.
Let me just jump in really quickly there, and I'm going to talk fast, y'all, so y'all got to stay with me. There are 50 states, and each of these 50 states has a different population. And when it comes down to the state populations, as I get my cat out of the way, the people in California would be immensely mad if they had the same voting power as the people in Rhode Island, when California has 300 times the amount of people. And so what happens is, when it comes to the three branches of government, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch, the legislative branch is where we have senators and so forth. And I see that I've just frozen, but I hope I unfreeze, because I don't like that look. Now, but what ends up happening is, in order to balance everything out, each state gets 2 senators and 2 senators only. So regardless of how big your state is, you get 2 senators and 2 senators only. The rest of the voting members of Congress, it is broken down by population. The more populated your state is, the more representatives you get for your state in Congress. And so there are 435 chairs in Congress. That number will not grow. They have to divide up that 435 chairs every 10 years. So if the population of California continues to grow, or if Texas grows, then Texas and California will get more of that 435 votes. But to keep Texas and California from bullying the lesser populated states like the Wyomings, the Rhode Islands, and the Delawares, everybody gets 2 senators, regardless of your population, to kind of even things out. Those senators serve 6-year terms, which is why it's immensely important to pay attention to who your senators are, because you only get 2, and they're going to be there for 6 years at a minimum. Your representatives, your congressional representatives, they're only there for 2 years. And so then they got to come back and run again. So they can be flipped out in 2 years. And so their power, though, is the power of the purse. The president may want something, but Congress is supposed to be a separate body. And they may say, you may want that, but we're not going to give you the money for it. And so that's the checks and balances of each branch. And if Congress tries to pass a law, then the Supreme Court can come around and say, you can't do that. That law is so there's a check and there's a balance between those 3. But senators are perhaps the most coveted positions, because you only get 2 per state, and those 2 senators are going to be there for 6 years. They don't run at the same time. They run at staggered times, so that you always have at least one experienced senator from your state.
Did you want to say anything, Nikki?
Yes, this is where, if you've heard in the news, the redistricting, This is where the redistricting comes in, because what Leon has just said is that we have to divide it up in the congressional house, and it's based on population. And so when one of the ways that they do that, we can see you again, Mr. Snow. One of the ways that we can do that is by looking at the census, by looking at population counts, population changes. And so, like Leon said, they, every 10 years or when they're reviewing what those numbers should look like or how many representatives there should be, that's kind of what they use as a goal. And in the last year, the last couple, in the months, there's been a lot of redistricting efforts to change those numbers in the House. And like Leon said, they change out every 2 years. And so that is the difference between that and a senator. Your senator is not. They planted for 6 years. So you have to be very wise about who you are sending up there to represent you and to make those decisions. And so those are the two federal offices that are currently on this ballot that'll be coming up in 2026.
So what type of issues are handled at the federal level versus the state level?
Immigration, for one. Funding from a federal standpoint is a big issue. As you can see, there are, and I'll use the Affordable Care Act and subsidies, things of that nature that come up. Any kind of federal student aid, different things that impact on a U.S. based level rather than a state level. And when you're thinking about what is handled from a federal level versus a state, think of it this way. The federal level is when we look at the federal level, we're looking at judges being appointed, because those are federal judges. Federal judges get appointed. They don't have term limits, right? So when you think about federal government, think about appointments, think about Supreme Court, think about funding, think about immigration, think about constitutional rights, things that impact us on a level, gun rights, abortion rights, different things. Like states can definitely create different things, but when you're looking at the federal is where you look at the uniformity that needs to happen and able to enforce things on a large scale basis. And so that's kind of how I keep them separate.
Anything that is not expressly mentioned in the Constitution as being a federal matter, it goes to the states. Correct. So so the feds tried to find a way, or the Supreme Court did, to make some things that carry from state to state. If you get married in California and you move to Oklahoma, you're still married because of the full faith and credit portion of the Constitution that says if you did that there, then it's applicable here. But if it's not expressly written in the Constitution, then that's where you'll hear everybody, states' rights. My state has marijuana. Another state, ours doesn't, because marijuana isn't mentioned in the Constitution, so it becomes a states' rights matter. There's nothing in the Constitution about abortion, so the states are trying to say, well, we want it back. And that's why they were so determined to overturn Roe versus Wade, because Roe versus Wade had set a national standard. When it got overturned by the current Supreme Court, now it went back to the states, and every state now has 50 different laws or sets of laws that govern abortion. Can we follow you out of state and get your medical records? Under what circumstances? Rape, no rape. The mother could die. So what? We don't care. It's just the wild, wild west. But anything not expressly written in the Constitution as being a state right or a federal right, it defaults to the state level. And most states are set up just like the federal level. But instead of a president of Texas, we have a governor. We also have a legislature, which are our state representatives and our state senators. We also have a state Supreme Court and a state court of criminal appeals, which is the highest courts for state-related matters. So every state basically follows the national setup, which is executive branch, legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Every state except for one or two, like Nebraska, is like unicameral. They're but every state follows that setup. So we have state representatives and we have state senators. The runoff election that's taking place now is for a state Senate seat. Okay, and it runs similar to just like the federal government. There's only so many state senators. There are less state senators than there are state representatives, and so we have to be able to look at which ones are up and running at that particular time, and the issues that are being put forward by the state versus the issues that are being put forward by the federal government, because they could be two separate things, but they could affect your daily living in a very different way.
And I always say, just to kind of add to what Leon just said with your local, one of the things that I urge everyone when they're getting ready to vote is to go online and look at your senator. You can do that on the federal level, and you can also do that on the state level and see how they have voted on issues that are important to you. You can see what legislation have they introduced. You can look at when they did not vote, right? Are they actively not voting? Are they being present when in these congressional meetings? And so you can get an idea, because a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know who to vote for. What are your values? What is important to you? And how are those individuals that are voting on your behalf voting? Because then when we look at things like the school voucher, we look at different things that are popping up where we're like, I didn't want that, or I didn't want that. Well, did you contact your legislature? Did you see how they were voting? Have you looked at how they voted? Have you looked at how they voted on issues that are important to you, on all of the different legislative matters that have been passed? So you have the ability to do that. You have the ability to look on the website to see what they voted on, have they been active in the voting, and exactly, what their values are, so that you can align that with how you would vote.
So how does a voter not become overwhelmed? It just seems like so much.
I'm gonna go back to what Leon said. It seems like a whole bunch when we trying to figure out where we sit at the Chris Brown concert or the Beyonce concert. It's overwhelming waiting in the lines that we have to wait on Ticketmaster to get my ticket. I know when I went to the Chris Brown concert, I was like number 200 and something thousand, and I had to wait until my time came up to buy that ticket. But I was multitasking and I was doing what I needed to do because it was important to me. And so I'm urging everyone, yes, it's overwhelming, but we don't wait until election. You have the ability to kind of keep track of what's happening before election season happens, because a lot of these incumbents, and when we say incumbents, it's people that's been in the office. We have a lot of people that have been in the office for a long time. So you already kind of know who's in there. And if you're seeing that things ain't like how you would normally like it, then you vote them out. I think that there are resources that are out there. I know that we've done voter education. Leon, you can help me here. We've had people that have talked about different candidates. There's public debates that happen to kind of give you an idea of where people stand that you can watch. There's also different resources. The Texas, I think it's the Texas Civil Rights Project, provides like a voter pamphlet. There are a couple of resources out there. There is the, election protection website that provides like pamphlets. They provide the names of people that are running. These are nonpartisan. So it's not just going to be all Democrats or all Republicans. And so I know that it seems overwhelming, but if we don't take a stand, then we're going to wind up in the situation to where we're in the streets crying because we're seeing things happen and not using our voice, which is our vote, to kind of say how we like something. If you don't like something, you vote them out.
And I'll just say this. I don't care if you're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. This is like a labor of love. When you have to go to work and feed your kids and nobody cares about the labor pains. They just care about the baby, because that's what's important. If you have to home health care one of your parents or something, you don't complain about every little thing that you have to do throughout the course of the day, and you have to wash them and take them to the restroom, wipe them and everything else, because you love them. It's that important to you. They're that important to you. Voting is the same way. When you fail to vote, you're giving someone else absolute authority over your life. And so you lose the opportunity to be heard. You lose literally the opportunity to count. When you don't count, then you literally don't matter. And so if your position is I matter in this world, that I'm the only Leon Reed Jr. to my knowledge that there has ever been and there ever will be, and the world is going to know that I was here. It's going to know that I was here because I voted and because I made an affirmative statement to count and to matter. So when I hear it's overwhelming, respectfully, Elder Shooter, I look at that as one of the reasons why people choose not to participate and they choose instead to opt out. No, no, ma'am, no, sir. This is part of being in America. This is part of being free. This is part of what our elders died for. Stood in lines, got beaten for, got bitten by dogs, high pressure water hoses. It was so that we would have the opportunity to count. And so I'm not going to disrespect the elders. When people start talking about the 400 years of enslavement that we've gone through in this country, no, they went through it. We are what they died for. And so I just don't care that it's overwhelming. If it's overwhelming, ask somebody. Be humble enough to say, hey, I need some help. Or do you know any of these? Explain what this is to me. And if they don't fully explain it to me, then I tell you what, you can tell me this time how you think I should vote. Because we live in the same neighborhood and our kids go to and presumably what's good for you is going to be good for me. So I'll let you borrow my vote this time, but I'm going to cast it. And then next time around, then I'm going to be better prepared, or there may be something that's really important to me that you don't so much care about. And I'm going to tell you, look, I need for you to go in there and vote for Claudine on this, but whatever you do, vote. I do not care that it's overwhelming. That's just a reason to opt out. I want you involved and I want you treating it with the importance that it came with.
So how do you silence all the noise? I mean, when you watch the news, when you watch TV, you see all of these ads and they're all one-sided. So far that I've seen, it's like how do you not get that in your spirit? It's like it's so confusing.
When you look at the bigger picture, there was a big Citizens United is the one of the most prolific Supreme Court decisions that had an effect on American history because it allowed corporations to be treated as people. And corporations could then donate a lot of money to candidates of their choice when corporations are really a handful of rich people. But because now they can donate millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars, the candidates have to just woo the corporations, get that money, and then they can run a ton of commercials. Uh, Whereas the grassroots person still has to do it the old-fashioned way, $5 here, $20 there, and they can get outspent, but that doesn't mean that other person's ideas and goals are in alignment with your own. So that's where that civil responsibility of being an educated voter comes in. And if you try to wait till the last minute, yeah, you can put yourself in a bad way. You should start looking into people ahead of time. And I'll tell you, if you're running on someone else's name more so than your own, I have a problem with you because you're not telling me what kind of leadership you have. You're not telling me about your own vision. You're trying to attach yourself to someone else's name and just ride their coattails. And to me, that's dangerous. I want to know. I ran for election in 2014 for judge, and I told people, Leon, who you running against? I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for you. This is golf to me. I go out and I play my game, and when I hit that ball, nobody else is hitting it but me. And if I put it in the hole and it takes less strokes than you, it had nothing to do with you. It was all about me. And if I can't convince you that my way is the best way, then maybe my message doesn't resonate. Maybe I need to go back and rethink something. But candidates now are so focused on where does the poll say they want, and then I'll just go and get in front of them instead of saying, no, this is a better way. Yes, this needle in your arm may hurt, but this vaccine in the long run will help. And I have to convince you of that, you know. And so that's the responsibility part. And that's where you really got to stay on top of stuff. And again, if you pass a sign while you're driving down the road that says vote here, you need to turn around, get in line and say, what are we voting on? And make sure that you're heard. And if they, well, we're early voting right now, but we'll be open all week. Okay, well, print me out one of the ballots so I can go and I can look, because there are just too many ways in the internet era to get information, whether it's through the League of Women Voters or other online Ballotpedia, whatever. There are ways that you can find out about people and what their positions are. And if you're just still wanting to rely on I just too much information, then ask somebody that you know and trust, but I still want you to vote.
I agree with that. And just to add to what Leon just said, one of the things that is so important is printing off. Right now, all the candidates have already declared. There's no surprise candidate that's going to pop up on March 1st, right before the primaries. So you can actually take the time, and this is how you know somebody really cares, or like you just said, I'm overwhelmed. If I wait till the day of to go vote, I'm going to be pulling up all these different people and names. I don't know what anybody has basically said. You can go on, if you pull up the Ballotpedia, if you pull up What's My Ballot, it will actually list who will be on your ballot at the primaries. It's the same thing if there is a bond, a vote, or if there's any kind of constitutional amendment, what will be on your ballot is printed ahead of time. So you can study. It's just like a test, right? You can go and you can pull it and you can study ahead of time and get the backgrounds that you need. Because I'm going to tell you something. It matters. What Leon said is exactly correct. It matters with the name and what I'm doing and experience. Do you want somebody being your comptroller that has never had any kind of financial background or any kind of financial experience, and they were doing something like, I hate math, and so I was like an English professor. Doesn't mean I'm not good in it, but I don't have any background. I don't have any knowledge. I've never worked with anybody's accounts. I've never managed a budget. I've never done it. Do you want them managing your state's budget? Do you not want to know more about them, or what qualifies you to do this position? I think we've all learned that a name alone and a little bit of a celebrity does not necessarily make you a great candidate. Right. And one of the things that I did prepare before we end this call, I wanted to, can I share it? I understand that it can be overwhelming, especially when you look at all the offices. And so what me and Leon tried to do was make it a little bit easier for you to be able to kind of distinguish and to kind of go through those offices in what exactly is on the ballot and how they impact you as an individual. And we won't spend too much time, but I would like to pull it up if that's okay, real quick.
Oh, that's good.
Can I share?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. Share screen. Okay, it's not showing yet. Hold on.
While Nikki's trying to pull that up, I want to say this. Understand that every time you vote, your candidate may not win, but it's still vitally important that you still continue to vote, because voting districts are broken down into precincts. And if someone is running for office and they only have so much money that they can spend, they're going to look at the precincts that have a high voter turnout. If there are 5,000 people in this precinct and every election cycle 80% of that 5,000 people show up to vote, I'm going to go and focus my time and efforts on them. Mm-hmm. Versus there are 5,000 people in this group and only 10% of them vote. I only have so much money. And so I'm going to spend it where I think it will have the most significant impact. And that's with that 80% of the people who are voting versus that 10%. So your candidate may not always win.
Correct.
But if they do see that you do vote, they will pay attention to you. And that's where you can start holding politicians' feet to the fire. That's when they start needing you. I need this 80%. I'm just going to focus on this 80%. I'm not worried about that 10%. That ain't enough to affect me getting elected. But this 80% can. And so that precinct with that 80% is going to have more influence than the precinct with the 10%. And that just makes economics. So it's important that even if your candidate does not win, you go and you vote, because it shows that people in that area care, and they have to come see you, because if they don't, it's to their detriment. Go ahead, Nikki.
Okay, so what I'm sharing, can you guys see? I'm assuming that y'all can see the presentation.
It's a little small. Can you bring it?
Okay. It's a little small.
If you can enlarge it, that's cool. Go ahead.
Yeah,
there we go.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is this. First of all, I want to thank the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association, which both me and Leon are a member of, for their commitment to helping the community. And I just want you to understand that this is not the first time that we will be having this conversation to help with the overwhelming part of this. We will be doing ongoing efforts to educate the community. And so this document is the first step. And so if anybody is watching this video and you would like a copy of this, or you would like for us to come and talk to, and I'm volunteering you, Leon, as well. But if you would like for us to come into your local church or to a community organization and discuss these different offices, we'd be more than happy to do that. We don't have to wait until the election. We can start those conversations now, because it's really important that you understand all of the different offices that are on the ballot. This visual guide is meant to kind of give a high level overview, but we have here listed all of the different offices that are on the ballot, their term length. And as you can see, the Supreme Court in Texas, and you see that 6 years for the Court of Criminal Appeals. And fun fact, I don't know if everybody knows this. If you're not dealing with criminal issues, you wouldn't. But the state of Texas has two different Supreme Courts. So we got one for the U.S., right? We got the Supreme Court of the United States. In Texas, we have the Supreme Court. They handle the civil appeals or civil matters. And then we have the Court of Criminal Appeals. So sometimes people see the Court of Criminal Appeals and they don't understand that's not like an appellate judge. That's an actual Supreme Court for criminal cases. So they have a separate court. So when you see that on the ballot, they're not the same. It's not the same as your appeals court judges, right? That is our Supreme Court for a criminal court. And so I just wanted to kind of look on here. You kind of get an idea of all the different offices that are on there. And I want to highlight ones that we don't really talk about a lot. We know who the governor, we all know the governor. We all will run to the ballot for the governor, and we will run to the ballot for our president. But we overlook some of these other offices: the railroad commissioner, the comptroller, the attorney general. Oh my God, the attorney general. If you want to know how does the attorney general affect me, how many people on here, I'm going to appeal to people that have child support orders on them. That's how we recognize the attorney general. They're also the ones that file lawsuits on behalf of the states. They are the chief legal officer. So think about enforcement of laws. That is our attorney general. The comptroller, they deal with our state finances, revenues, estimates, like what budget, how the budget is divided up. One that I really want to emphasize as well is county judges. So our local offices, guys, the county judge, which includes our district court, it includes our family court, it includes the county court, the commissioner's court. Our county judges, guys, are how we administer ourselves in our local regions. And they are probably some of the most important offices on the ballot. And so we need to make sure that we are aware of who is doing what, who represents who, and what those judges do. When you look at family court, you may say, well, I'm not in family court. I don't have a divorce. I don't have any children. But you don't know if you are going to wind up having someone, CPS, get involved with taking kids out of the home. You don't know if you are later going to have to go and file a grandparent's rights to get your children. All of those impact you. besides just being married and besides just having children. When you look at the county court, the commissioner's court, guys, y'all need to pay attention to who is on your commissioner's court and who is representing you. Those are done by districts. And so I can't go and vote for whoever represents District 2, right? Each one of us has a different district, and that person goes and they are voting for you before the court. They have an open court. You can go, I think it's every Tuesday, and they publish the agenda. But the county commissioner's court, they're the purse for the city. They also make rules for your local county. Yeah, Leon, were you trying to say something?
Not the city, for the county.
Yeah, that's what I just said, for the county. Not the city, but the county. And so you have different districts. And so when we look at Tarrant County is very wide, right? And so you need to know who is making those decisions. Think about COVID when we had the government shutdown. They were the officers that were making that decision on how your county was going to run during that time frame. They are also the ones that are passing the rules on redistricting, on budgets, on what can and cannot be done. They basically administer your county. And so it's very important that you understand who is representing you, because those local laws impact you more so than your state and your federal government. Not saying that they don't all impact you, but your local judges do. When we look at the district attorney, it is so important that we know the district attorney is the one that directs the Office for Criminal Prosecution. And so, Leon, you're a criminal defense attorney, so I'll let you speak more about the impact or why it's important that we know who is our district attorney.
When it comes down to the local offices like district attorney and so forth, the district attorney decides what cases will be prosecuted and to what extent and what level of punishment that you're looking for. So if you have a district attorney who is just a hardliner, well, if the punishment range calls for 5 to 99 on something, and people, well, it's my first offense. Well, your first offense doesn't say, it's not written anywhere, oh, you get a freebie. No, that's nonsense. But the district attorney could go in there and say, give them life, versus a district attorney who could say, you know what? This child was raised, both parents were killed, in a car accident, and, the parent wasn't in the best situation. They may look beyond the data or this or that, and they may say, you know what? This person still has value. And so all of that comes down to the district attorney's office. The district attorney sets the relationship with the various police departments within the county. And so really, what you really ought to come to know and understand, that there's so many different levels going on. You have family court judges, as Nikki that was saying, that are on the ballot. You have district court judges. District court judges can handle the felony criminal cases. And so, those more serious cases, district court judges have. Misdemeanor courts, you have, or county courts, those cases only handle misdemeanors. Well, the majority of all cases are misdemeanors. It's like a pyramid. Only the most serious, egregious offenses happen at the top. By and large, down here at the bottom is a bunch of misdemeanors. So they're important. The county commissioners, because they can dictate, as what was seen in Tarrant County. Well, we're going to shut down some polling locations. So now, when you had a polling location around the corner, you could just go vote to it. Now they're going to test your voting resolve and make you have to drive further and now stand in a line, because they reduced the number of polling places that you won't show up to vote, and you'll get deterred by that line. That's the kind of thing that happens, where they can decide, whoa, I'm doing a bunch of stuff that's messed up and I'm getting a bunch of feedback from people. I tell you what, let me redraw this district so that I can have more people who think the way I do, even though they're a smaller number. If I tighten this district up, I can ensure that I end up winning again. Again, when I said earlier, they end up selecting you. And when you choose the wrong people, or you choose not to be involved, you're really giving someone else control over your life. and not just your life, the life of your children. And one thing that I learned in the Marine Corps, Nikki, and traveling all around the world, is that people, no matter where you are, they want better for their families and they want to matter. That was the one consistent thing that I saw everywhere that I went, regardless of where I was. People wanted to matter. They wanted to have, they wanted the world to know I was here, and they want better for their children. And when we don't vote and we don't take the time to look into who we're voting for, then we're doing a disservice to our children's future. And that's being seen right now across the country.
Wow. So I do see, at first I couldn't see any of the questions, and we've had quite a few questions to come through. So what I would like to do is that if your question has not been answered, if you could just send your questions to touchingyoutalkshow@gmail.com, we will make sure and get your question answered. It's touchingyoutalkshow@gmail.com. And I will make sure that your question is answered. Another thing I wanted to say, Nikki, is there a way you could share that document with us? How can we get our hands on that document that lists all of those offices on it? Are you talking on mute, baby?
I do. I keep doing that because I'm trying to be respectful while Leon is talking and not let y'all hear me groaning whenever he's talking. But anyway, I'm just joking. Like I said, both of us are members of the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association, and we are actively trying to support our president, Kanae Turner, in her initiatives with the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute, about voting rights and voter protection. And so if you want a copy of that document and you would like for us to make a presentation, reach out to the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association. You can go to our website. If you Google L. Clifford Davis Legal Association, there's only one. We will, and send us an email or reach out and say, contact us. Or even if you want to send it to my email address, N like Nancy, CHRIESMAN @gmail.com. We'd be more than happy to provide you with a copy of that presentation, as well as with some additional information on election protection and voting rights in general, so that you have a basis for that document, because it does no good if you're just looking at it as a whole, because you need to have an understanding of what exactly I'm looking at and why.
That's good. That's good. So
don't don't go to I'm gonna throw this in here. Don't go to the ballot and check the first box and say I'm done. Go down and vote for every single office that is on that ballot. Because like Leon said, when you don't vote, I have a lot of people that say I didn't vote, and they think that's cute or that solves the problem, and it doesn't, because when you don't vote, you are essentially voting.
So do we really have that option where we can just check the first one and not answer any other questions?
You used to. And I think it was a very good thing. You used to be able to go in there and just click a box, all Republican or all Democrat. And that would be to your detriment in a whole lot of situations, because I've always made it a policy to vote for people, not parties. Because just because someone's in a particular party doesn't mean that they are truly aligned with my thought process and my beliefs on how things should be. And so now that's been taken off the ballot, and you have to go down and vote in each particular race. Now, people will skip some races or something. They'll go in there and they may vote for just the president, the Senate, and they may say, I don't know all of the judge. I don't know what the railroad commissioner does. So I'm not, well, the railroad commissioner actually handles all oil and gas matters in the state of Texas. So if you think some fracking is going on in your neighborhood and you don't want that to take place and it's causing earthquakes or whatever you think it may be, then you need to be particularly interested in who's running for railroad commissioner. And that's that educational process that you have to go through as a citizen. It is part of the burden of being a citizen. It is a duty that is imposed on you to educate yourself and to vote. I don't know how more emphatically that I can say that it matters. And it doesn't just matter for you. You may be single, but your neighbor may have a house full of kids, and it may matter to them who that juvenile judge is. So go ask your neighbor, because that's your neighbor. And if you want to have a strong neighborhood, you have to be neighborly. You might want to know your neighbor. And so, it's just utterly important that we vote. And I wish, and I'm willing. I see that we just hit the 1 hour mark, and I don't know what kind of time frame you have, Elder Sheila. I'm willing to stay and address this. It's that important to me. But if you get those questions, please reach back out. Any question I don't know, I don't fake the funk on. I'll get somebody who knows more than me and get them to answer it. But I just can't stress enough how important it is for us to vote in this day and age in particular. And we're leaving so much meat on the bone. You can't do it all in an hour.
We just scratched the surface. I have to have you on back. I have to.
Yeah.
So there it is. We'll have to have them back. So what I would like for you to do, your questions, go ahead, email those to touchingyoutalkshow@gmail.com. I'll make sure and get those questions to Leon and Nikki, and we'll get those questions answered for you. This has been great. I appreciate you so much. It looks like Nikki has something she would like to say.
I would like to plug a community event that we have coming up. We have a couple with the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association. We actually have an event coming up called Mine. And let me make sure I'm getting this right. So I don't want to say it wrong, but I want to make sure this is a community event. And so it is for our community. And so since we have the community on the call, I want to make sure that we let you guys know. So give me 1 second, because I should have already had this up. But it is a Mine body and ballot event, and it is in, give me a second, I'll pull this up. Hold on, I'm about to get them all, and this will help you, so it's worth the wait. But we have a Mind, Body, and Ballot community fair, and it is on February the 7th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the William M. McDonald YMCA that is on Mooresby Street, and it's an effort to raise public health and also voter awareness. We will have lifestyle and wellness resources there, CPR training, sickle cell education, mental health providers. We will have voter registration and additional education. So you might see these documents there. Youth activities. Again, it is free to the public, and it's on Saturday, February the 7th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the William M. McDonald YMCA on Mooresby Street. We also, I'm very excited about this event. We'll have a community forum. One of the things is Black History Month is coming up in February. And one of the things that we always want to advocate for as African Americans is being leaders and being responsible for our own welfare. The best way to do that is through your own businesses and also nonprofits. But what happens when those nonprofits and those businesses that we have run into a little trouble because we don't have all the compliance together? So I ask that you join the L. Clifford Davis Legal Association, the Black Women Lawyers Association, and the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce as we host an in-person panel called Built to Last, Legal 101 for Black-owned businesses and nonprofits. That is on February the 12th of 2026 from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And we will provide basics and fundamentals for business essentials to help Black-owned businesses and nonprofits not only start strong, but stay compliant with requirements under the law when you are operating one of those types of entities. We will also have Patsy Ray, who is a well-known and respected CPA and accountant, there to give some financial information with respect to these nonprofits and businesses. Again, it is free, and it will be done at the Doc Bookshop on February the 12th of 2026. Again, that's the Doc Bookshop on February 12th of 2026 from 6 to 7:30.
Okay, that sounds good.
Did I get every commercial in, Leon?
You got a good commercial in.
Did I miss anything?
So you want to give us some final words, Nikki, just to encourage people.
First of all, I want to say that I'm very grateful for a platform and the opportunity to talk. Not just to talk about anything, but to talk about things that matter to the community. And one of the things that Leon said is we have a civil responsibility. And so when we think about voting and it being overwhelming and not understanding, we have an obligation to learn. We do it with things that we like. We do it on TikTok. We do it with Instagram. We spend hours and hours and hours. going through videos and laughing at memes and doing all of that. So how much more should we spend researching candidates, making sure that we are able to go vote, making sure that we're taking out the time to give back, not just to our community, but to our children, to ourselves, to make sure that our voice is being heard. I know that it's frustrating when you vote for someone and they don't get it and they don't receive it. But one of the things that Leon pointed out, which I like, is that they may not have won, but your voice has been heard because you've made a statement. And those other candidates will see, oh, he only lost by 5%. So I better listen to that 47% that were supporting them because I could be in trouble next time when I run. And so I just want to emphasize again the importance of not just registering to vote. That's the first part. We go to these little voting fairs and we register to vote, but also getting to the polls. And so whatever you can do in your capacity to make sure that you are helping people get to the polls, whether that is volunteering to do the drive where you drive people to the polls, whether that is advising people on what is on the ballot so that they can help make decisions, reminding people of the dates that they need to get to the polls. Again, early voting is February 17th through February 28th with Election Day on March 3rd. Making sure that we understand who is on the ballot and how important it is for each one of those offices. If I can't leave you with anything else, it's that our ancestors died. And I know we get tired of hearing this, but what a privilege it is to be able to be an attorney, to be able to have this platform. I would not have had that if the Civil Rights Bill wouldn't have been passed, if the Board of Education wouldn't have made decisions that allowed me to be able to go to certain schools. And so we need to understand that all these things are under attack. we take for granted what we are able to freely do. And then as soon as it is up to be grabbed, then we want to get all excited. And so don't let somebody take something from you that is freely available to you. Exercise your right to vote and get to the polls.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And Leon, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we let everybody go?
I didn't know, Nikki. That was impressive. I didn't know. If I knew how to play the church organ, I would have been over here hitting some keys. But it is just, if you look at the world today, don't let anyone, and that means your family member, dude at the bar, somebody else, try to convince you that voting doesn't matter. If it did not matter, they would not be trying so hard to make it hard to vote. You have to vote. You must vote. And that's why the current president is talking about not having another election, because he understands the power of the vote. There's one thing that I used to say all the time, Elder Sheila, and that is, if you a billionaire or you flat broke, you get one vote. Mm-hmm. If you're the landlord or you're the tenant, you get one vote. If you're the employee or the employer, you only get one vote. Your vote is your equalizer. They got to stand in line like you do. Your vote puts you on the same level. And so that tells you how powerful it is. Don't not use such a powerful weapon that you have at your disposal that affects you and those who are coming behind us. The elders did their part. That generation did their part. Now it's up to us to do ours. Hallelujah, holla back.
I appreciate you all, both of you, taking the time out to be on the show. I would love to have you back so we can continue our discussion and just answer any questions that people have. So thank you so much for taking the time out. Thank you for all of you who are watching. I ask that you would share, tag, reshare it, share it in your story, share it on your feed, just to get the word out, and just making sure everybody know how important it is, how we should vote, and how we should not leave that opportunity on the table. This has been Touching You Talk Show. Have a great day, everyone.